Hello everyone, this is Dante Massimino, and in this episode we're going to be looking at various 3D transformation commands. This includes 3D orbit, 3D rotate, 3D scale, 3D move, and 3D align. To begin with, I'd like to talk about 3D orbit. If you've watched my other videos, then you've probably seen me use the basic form of 3D orbit, which you can do by holding down left shift and pressing the middle mouse button. This allows you to rotate around. As you can see, it's very useful. It's like the view cube, except it's a lot more free and it's very useful. However, if you do 3DO to activate the constrained 3D orbit command, then you're in a dedicated form of 3D orbit, and just simply left clicking will cause you to activate orbit mode. In addition, you have all these options to do different kinds of 3D orbits, so let's get into them. First and foremost, there's auto target orbit. While that's on, it'll select the orbit point by itself for you. When it's off, the orbit point is just set at wherever you click the mouse. So that can be useful as well, but as you can see, you can kind of lose your creations if you're doing that and you're going really fast. So if you set it to enable auto target, then it'll generally snap to one of your creations and use that as a base point so that you can't get lost too easily, which is nice. Next up, we have the free orbit mode, which lets us rotate around an axis, and then also rotate around an axis like this, depending on where you click in this circle. And if you click, if you're out here, you rotate like such. If you're in the middle, you rotate either direction. And if you click on this, you can only rotate around. I'd like to reset the view cube now. Alrighty, there are so many other commands though that we got to keep going. So we do 3DO, we enter navigation modes, we go to continuous orbit, and what that does is when you orbit, you give yourself a kind of momentum, except it never decreases, so you'll just keep spinning forever. Which is cool. It can be cool if you're trying to demonstrate movement or trying to just do a cool little effect where you're rotating around something that you've created. And if you want to stop, just click, don't move, and there you are. And we have the adjust distance, which is just zoom. You can do this by scrolling. There's swivel, which sets the camera behind you, or sets the lock point behind you, and makes it so that you can only swivel as though you're the one holding the camera. There is the walk navigation mode, which is kind of strange, and it has all this weird stuff. And basically, you can walk around as though you are. You can look around and you can walk around as though you're walking through your design, which would be cool if you had like a city or a house or something designed. But for this one, it's just the weird little things that I built for the fillet and chamfer videos. So yeah, you can't really get a whole lot out of walk here. There's also the fly option, which is the same thing as walk, except you can move in and out like this. And yeah. Of course, we have the zoom option, which is the same as the other one, the same as adjust distance, and we have the pan option, which is just what middle mouse is if you are not in this command. So back to constrained orbit. There's zoom window, which zooms to a window that you draw. There's zoom extents, which zooms you out to see your entire drawing. There's zoom previous, which takes you to your previous zoom. If you do parallel, it makes it so that from this perspective, the lines in your drawing are parallel, so this and that are parallel, and it makes it so that way you cannot adjust it to view them as not parallel. Well, you can, but it sets it so that the parallels are there. There's perspective, which makes it so that the stuff changes as you move. There's reset view and preset views. So reset view will take you back to whatever the default view in the view cube is, and the preset views take you to one of the presets on the view cube. The visual styles are the visual styles that I'd covered in an earlier video, and the visual aids are just grid. So the grid, the UCS icon, which is this right here, which tells you what coordinate system you're on, and this compass here, which kind of just gives you an idea of how things are oriented. in the world. Next, I'd like to talk about the 3D rotate command. The 3D rotate command can be found up here or by typing in 3DR for 3D rotate. So the first step is to select the object you'd like to rotate. Now you see that this rotation gizmo pops up here, and what you can do is you can pick an axis to rotate around, which corresponds to the color of the ring. So red for the x-axis, green for the y-axis, and blue for the z-axis. You can also move the base point of the gizmo by clicking around. So if you wanted to rotate it around some arbitrary point, you could click at that point, or if you wanted to rotate it around some predefined axis that you've already got, then you can click on that. Also, you can just select one of the default axes here, so we'll do the y-axis, and as you can see, it is now rotating around the y-axis. Now we have commands down at the bottom, so if we do C for copy, then the base object will stay where it is, and every time you click, you will create a new object with that rotation. There's also U for undo, which is obvious, R for reference, which changes the reference angle. So here, this angle is 0. If I was to do R and do 90, that would make this the new reference angle, and that would mean that this is equal to 90. And there's also the base point command, so B. What that does is you can specify a new base point. The first term offsets it this way or that way. The next term offsets it this way or that way. And so what that does is, instead of rotating around this point, it'll offset the rotation point in whatever direction that you say. So if I do 3 and 1, you see it's moved the base point all the way over there. So now it rotates around that point instead of around the previous point. So then if I do copy, you can see that I can place these all over the place. And if I do undo, that last one goes away, and that one goes away, and that one goes away. And if I do reference, I can change the reference angle. So we'll do 90. So now, as you can see, if I tell it to do 0 degrees, it now appears right there. It's not clear because I put one there. But if I tell it to do 0 degrees, one will now appear there, 90 degrees offset from the previous reference point. And then if I do X, obviously that just exits out the command. The next command I'd like to talk about is 3D move, which, similar to 3D rotate, you begin by selecting the command. So up here, 3D move, or do 3DM, or 3D move, select the object you'd like to move, and then you see the gizmo pops up, and then you can move it along one of these axes. So I'll select so you can also specify the displacement, so D, and that'll just give you displacement in general from the origin point over here. So next, we pick the object, and then we pick one of the gizmos, so we'll move it in the X direction, or no, the Y direction, sorry. So you see we have commands similar to that we did in rotate, base point, copy, undo, and exit. Copy, undo, and exit all have the exact same function, so I won't show those again. Base point is again the same thing, but there's really not any reason to move it unless you're trying to move it to line up with something that you've drawn previously. But you do base point, and then it would move the base point, so this thing right here, the amount that you type in to move it for the base point. But 3D move is really quite a simple command. Yeah, and you can also just hit move, and then specify a base point, and then just move it kind of however you'd like. The next command I'd like to talk about is 3D scale. So we get that by typing 3DS for 3D scale, and then you select the object you'd like to scale. And then again, you see the scale gizmo pops up now with the base point. Again, the base point is not particularly important with scale. Then you grab one of these endpoints, and it scales the entire object. You can drag it around to scale it until you think it's correct, or you can enter a scale factor, which is the amount that the object will be multiplied by to scale it up. There are also the commands base point, copy, undo, reference, and exit. Base point is again just for moving the base point. Again, it's not particularly useful here in scale. Copy means that you can create many multiple sized copies of your creation, so C for copy, and then making all kinds of different sizes. U is undo, it'll undo your last action. Reference means that you can change the reference size of your scale. So if you want the new default to be, say, 2, you can do R2, and then that is now the default size of it is 2. So scaling it by a lot makes it huge, and scaling it by 0.5 returns it to its original size. And again, exit just takes you out of the command. Alright, the final command that I'd like to talk about in this video is align. Align can be very useful because, say you have two objects and you need them to be, say, this plane and that plane, you need them to be in the same plane. But this object's all over the place because you were just 3D moving it around, and it would be really difficult to just line it up like that. So what you can do is you can select the object that you'd like to align. Then you have the option for C for copy, but we don't want to do that. We just want to move the original object. You pick the base point, which is where the alignment will occur from, and then you can continue from here using the C command, but that's not as good because then you can only line it up at one point and the object can go all over the place. So I recommend selecting at least 2 points. So now we've got 2 points that we can line it up with. We could use a third point, however this object doesn't really work with 3 points because that's a different height than that. So we'll just continue with 2 points, so C for continue. Now we have this object floating around. We need to decide where to align it to. We want to align it to that corner. And so since we picked the second point, we tell the second point where to align to as well. And now there's only 2 options for this thing to align to. Well, there's a few, but this is the important one. Now we exit, and there you have it. These objects are aligned now. They exist in the same plane. So now if you want to move this, you can use move and just move it back, but they're still in the same plane. Alright everyone, I hope that you learned a lot in this video, and I will see you next time.